back to Same Bright Fashion Academy YouTube channel for another interesting tutorial. In this tutorial, I'll be teaching you how to sew this kissing pleated palazzo trouser with crossing belt. As you can see right here, you can make it short length, you can make it a long length. Okay, so this is what I came out with. You can see how beautiful this palazzo pleated pants looks with crossing belt. So I actually made this for my little girl, and you can see the side pockets right there. So I'll be teaching you the tips and tricks to making this beautiful kissing pleat with side pockets. So this is the kissing pleat at the back, the crossing belt at the back. We also have the kissing pleat at the front and the belt as well. So if this is what you want to learn in this class, I will encourage you to stay till the end of this tutorial to learn more. Thank you. So I'll be making use of 3 yards of Ankara fabric. So I'm using only 3 yards. So these 3 yards of Ankara fabric, Ankara comes at 45 inches length. So that is the length at 45, and this is the yardage per 3 yards. So I'm going to put my 3 yards together like this. So once you put that 3 yards together, you will now have an open end and a folded part. So this folded part, I'll pick it up to meet up the open end. Make sure they match together very well. So here you can see me matching it together. Here is the open end that met the folded end. So you are going to place it like this on your table, and this is the folded part. Okay, so after arranging this, the next thing you are going to do is to mark out 1 inch as your border line. So I marked out 1 inch as my border line here. So from this 1 inch, that is going to serve as my band line or my waistline. So from there, I'll place my tape and I'm going to measure my crouch depth. So my crouch depth is my hip circumference divided by 4. Your hip circumference divided by 4. So I'm marking 10 inches there because the hip I'm working with is 40 inches. Divided by 4 is 10 inches. So I'll just go ahead and mark it from that line, 10 inches. So after marking it on that line, the next thing we want to do now, we'll place our tape on that waistline, and then we are going to take the full length of this pant. So the full length of this pant, I'm actually using 43 inches, but I later realized 43 inches was over long, too much. So just measure your desired length at that point as your full length. So this is my waistline and this is my crouch line, and here is my full length line. So now the next will come over to the folded part to mark the crouch extension. So on that crouch line, we are going to use crouch extension. We are going to use our hip divide by 10. Whatever you have, minus 0.5 from it. My hip is 40, divided by 10 is 4, minus 0.5 gave me 3.5 inches. So I'm going to mark from that folded part right now. I'll mark inwards 3.5. So whatever you get, just mark it there and mark it on the waistline. Then you are going to rule a straight line. So after ruling my straight line, I'm going to go in by 1 inch for a better fit. So just go in by 1 inch and connect it back to that crouch extension point. So you can see how it went right there. So I'll just use my curve ruler and mark out the crouch extension with a curve. So I'll just connect it with a curve like this. Of course, you are familiar with this kind of curve for trousers. So I'm done marking the crouch extension. Now I'm going to take my hip circumference divided by 4 from that point after the crouch extension. So I place my tape from that point of 3.5 inches crouch, and I'm going to mark my hip divided by 4. I marked 10 inches at that point. Then I added half an inch for my seam allowance. So from that my half an inch seam allowance, I'm going to add my pleating. So I'm just using 8 9 inches, because that is what I have remaining on my fabric. So you can use 8 inches, 9 inches, you know, for your pleating, at least from 8 inches. So I just used 9 inches. So now I'm going to come off for the back by 1 inch. This is the bum illusion. I'm going to slant in that 1 inch into the waistline with a straight line like this. So make sure it touches the end of the side on the waistline. So that is the bum illusion. Of course, you are familiar with the bum illusion pattern on trousers. So after that, we are going to come inwards. We want to mark the pocket 1.5 inches. Then the length of the pocket is usually 6.5 inches. So I'm going to connect from 1.5 inches on the waistline to 6.5 inches on the side. That is for my pocket. So that is my pocket right now. So the next thing we are going to do is to cut from that 1 inch we went in for the feet of the trouser to the crotch extension. Then we are going to go from the bum illusion for the back, and then we are going to cut the slanted part to the waistline. You can see what we have there. Now we are going to trim out the side a little bit. So just trim out the side a little bit, very, very little, okay? So I'm going to cut through that little excess from the waistline to the hem line. So after I'm done cutting right now, the trouser is very much ready. So we are going to take out the 2 pieces on top. That 2 pieces will serve as the front piece. So just cut out the front piece straight. The front piece does not have a bum illusion, so I'll just cut out that bum illusion. So you can see what we have right here. So when I open it, you can see the front piece is shorter and the back is longer. So we are going to secure with our pins right now because we are going to stitch. You go ahead and stitch and stitch and stitch. So I'm securing with my pin because I'm going over to the machine. But then we are going to take the measurement of where our zipper is going to be. So from that back piece, I will measure 8 inches. Just measure 8 inches and mark. So at that point of 8 inches, that is where I'm going to stop my stitching. So I will leave the rest of that zipper part open. So the part I'm chalking now, I'm heading over to the machine now to stitch on that part which I'm chalking right away. So I'll go and stitch now. So here is going to be the pocket part. So I'll just make a notch on that 1.5 inches we came in and the 6.5 inches on the side of the pocket. So then this is my pocket itself, or my pocketing. So it measures 14 inches by 11. The length is 11. So I'm going to place this on fold. I'm placing the 14 inches part on fold, and I'm going to make a curve to it. So just like you have a curve on your pocket, that is exactly what I'm doing. So the length here is, the vertical length is 11, but the horizontal length or the width is 14 inches. So I'll go over to the machine now. I'm going to stitch that zipper part after cutting the pocketing. So I'll just go ahead and cut and sew, following the chalk line I made. This is the crouch line which connects both the front and the back. So I'll just go ahead and stitch up to that 8 inches point of my zipper. So once I get there, I'll just leave that part open and back stitch. So this is what I got after I'm done sewing. So this part is ready. Next, we'll go over to the front side to sew our pocket. So the pocket is going to be on the front side piece alone. So here on my machine, this is the notch I have. So this 1.5 inches right now to the 6.5 inches, just connect it with a straight line with your ruler like this and your chalk. So once you have marked that diagonal line, the next we are going to do is supposed to go in for the pocket like this. But then I'm going to bring in my pocketing. But one thing I want you to do is to use the same Ankara fabric, please. Lay it right side to wrong side. Ankara fabric, please use Ankara. Don't use, I don't have much of this Ankara, that's why I use them a plain fabric. Please don't use plain fabric. So now you are going to sew on that line. So after stitching on that line we marked, you will fold it in like this and top stitch on top of it. So you top stitch on top of it like this. Okay, so you can see how I stitched it. So after that, the next thing we are going to do is to open it up again and fold in that piece. You are going to fold it a little, just a little inwards, and top stitch on top of that pocketing. Okay, please use Ankara fabric for your pocketing. So now I'm going to push it in and match them together. So you can see how I pushed it in. If you are familiar with sewing pockets, you understand this part very well. So I put it together, and on that point of 6.5, I'm going to make a notch of 1/2 inch inwards, just back stitch 1/2 inch inwards. After that, you can see my back stitching. It has held the two pockets together. So you turn it to the back. You can see how I pushed it inwards. Just follow this tutorial and stitch. You'll be able to get it very well. So remember, I made a notch at that point. Don't forget to make a notch, okay, on that point. It will help you when you push it out. You'll be able to see a space to stitch. So I have stitched inwards. The next I'm going to do now, I'm going to turn it again to the right side. So once you turn it to the normal side it was before, then you are going to stitch on top of it. So this is called a French seam. We usually use this French seam for sewing pockets. So after stitching it again, the pocket is now very much ready. So the next thing you are going to do is to arrange the pocket. Allow it to lay on its natural course. You can see the 1.5 inch that we took is just there. You can see it's just there. Okay, so you arrange it very well. Then we are going to stitch both the pocket and the fabric together on the waistline. Okay, so after stitching it on the waistline, the next thing we are going to do is to trim off the pocketing to align with the waistline. So here you can see the pocket right now, and the pocket is ready. So I'm going to repeat the same thing for the other side as well. So I'm done sewing the two parts of my pocket. So you can see the crotch line and the zipper line, that is the back area. So I'm going to set this back area and bring the crossing belt. So my crossing belt is actually 45 inches in length, but the width measures 7 inches. So I'm going to fold it together and stitch 1/2 inch. I'll close one part and leave the other part open, just like we sew in a belt. So after stitching, I'm going to turn it to the right side. So I've turned it to the right side and I gave it a good press. So the width of this belt is 3 inches after stitching, and the length is 45 inches. I'm going to sew my band right now. So my band is 4 inches in width, and the length is my waist circumference plus 2 inches of my zip allowance. So I'm going to put my band on fold. So that folded part, I'm going to measure my nipple to nipple measurement, and I'm going to make a notch at that point. So that is the point at which we are going to sew the band right now. So I'll bring in my band and I'm going to place it, the part that is stitched, I'll place it by the nipple to nipple measurement point. Then the other part, that where I closed up, the open part, I will place it on that point and stitch. Although actually I later realized that this band I placed right here is supposed to be at the outer open part, but later I took it to the outer part. The open part, that is where you are supposed to measure, because that is where the back is, but I stitched it at the front. So I'm done stitching. I placed the lining on top of it and I stitched, and I folded 1/2 inch on the band, the front side of the band. So the distance you should have here is 8 inches, which is your nipple to nipple measurement. So now I bring back the fabric. So the next thing we are going to do is to sew the sides of the dress. So you pick up the front trouser and match it with the back trouser. The front trouser has a pocket, the back does not have. So you place it right side to right side. Then we are going to stitch 1/2 inch all the way from the waistline all the way to the hemline. So I'll go over to the machine now and I'm going to show you how I stitched that. So I also stitched the other side too, okay? So here on the machine, I've started stitching. When I got to the pocket, I placed it inwards, very much inwards, and stitch the 1/2 inch. So I have to stitch the 1/2 inch from that point until I got to the end of this side. And I repeated the same thing for the other side. So you can see my pocket is ready and the side is ready, and the zipper is open and the center front is closed. So we are going to key split this trouser right now. So I brought back that band which I stitched and top stitched. So I will put it together again. So I want you to watch. This will guide us to key split this trouser very well. So you measure your nipple to nipple measurements and mark, and from the zipper part you measure nipple to nipple measurement plus your zipper. My own gave me 5 inches and I made a notch on it. I'll also make a notch at that 4 inches from the center front I marked, and make a notch at the center front too. After that, we are going to put the nipple to nipple for front and back together. We are going to make another notch. That notch will now be the side notch. Okay, you can see the 1 inch zipper allowance. So that is 1 inch. So now I'm going to also make another notch. So all together we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 notches, 7 notches. Okay, so the center front there, I'm going to bring in my center front. The closed part is my center front. Wrong side to the right side of the lining, the band lining. Right side to the wrong side of the band lining, you secure with your pin. Then you go over to the side. To the side, open the side seams and place the notch that matches to that side. Secure with your pin. You go to the zipper point, secure with your pin. This will guide us when we are stitching. Then I also secured on the nipple to nipple points like that. I secured them too. So when you are pinning this, you will see the excesses we have, which is the key splitting. So these excesses, we are going to bring them together as a key split, but I just secured it with my pin. But not to worry, when we get to the machine, you are going to see how we are going to stitch it. Just follow this tutorial, you'll be able to get it very, very well. So I kept securing with my pin at those strategic points, okay? The sides, the center front, the zipper parts, the nipple to nipple points. In fact, all those notches, I located them on the main trouser and secured them with my pin on the band. So I went over to the other side. I secure with my pin only on the lining of the band, and I'm also securing with my pin on the zipper as well. So we are going over to the machine right now to stitch. So here on the machine, I'm going to start stitching from the zipper part. Make sure the trouser is on top of the band, okay? Right side to wrong side. Right side of the lining and wrong side of the trouser itself will face each other. So you just stitch just a little, just stitch a little. Then the first notch, you can see the first notch, and you can see where I pinned the side. So now you are going to bring everything together to that notch. Straighten everything from that side to that nipple to nipple notch. Put it together and now get the midpoint. You can now make a notch on the midpoint. Place it back on the nipple to nipple notch. Okay, that excess midpoint, place it back. Of course, you are seeing what I'm doing here. Then once you place it back, you now push it in and make the kissing pleat. So you can see what I'm doing. Just watch this video very well. You are not going to miss it, okay? So you can see what I'm doing there. I'm taking my time to split it. So that kissing pleat has to come back to the notch of the nipple to nipple on the band and the notch we made on that excess. So once you have gotten that kissing pleat, the next thing you are going to do is to stitch across it. So we are going to stitch across it on top of the band right now. So I'm stitching at 1/2 inch. So once I got to the side, you can see the kissing pleat right there. So I'll go over to the side. So once I get to the side where the pocket is, I'll repeat the same process. I'm going to locate the next notch, which is the nipple to nipple notch that we have at the front piece. So I'll take off that pin. Then I'm going to also, from the center front, you can see I've made the notch, okay? Then I stitched across the pocket too. Now I'll also repeat the same thing. Take off all those pins, then locate the notch, and then make sure everything meets at the notch. You get the center point of the excess, then place the notch of the excess on the notch of the nipple to nipple, then fold in your kissing pleats and stitch on it. Then the other excess you have to, you are going to also reverse it to kiss the other parts like that. So with this, you are not going to miss it at all. So you go ahead and stitch until we got to the end. So I did that for all the kissing pleats. So I've gotten to the end of it, and this is what we got right now. So the next thing we are going to do is to top stitch. But before you top stitch, make sure you pin very well. So I'm going to place the part I folded 1/2 inch on top like this, and I'm going to secure with my pins accordingly. So you can see how I'm pinning. So I'm going to take my time to make sure this band is exactly on the waist. I'll pin at strategic points on the sides, at the zipper points and all that. Then I'll go over to the machine. I'm going to top stitch on the lines. So here on the machine, I'm top stitching. So I make sure I go ahead to top stitch very, very well. So I'll keep stitching or top stitching across until I got to the other end. So when you are working on this kind of pants, you don't need to rush, especially on the part of this band. Take your time, make sure you have a beautiful, well finished job. So I'm going to stitch all the way from this point until I got to the other point. So I will stitch and stitch and stitch to the other end. So I've gotten to the other end of it right now, and the band is very much ready and clean. So this is my band. The next thing we are going to do is to sew the zip. So to sew the zip, I'll just go ahead and mark 1 inch. That is my zipper allowance. I'm going to mark 1 inch from that point until I got to that zipper point. So I'll go over to the machine right now. I'm going to sew my zipper. So I'll just open up my zipper and place it inwards, then fold in the excess. Then with my zipper foot, I'm going to stitch my zip on that 1 inch line. So I stitched it all the way. Of course, you know how to sew your zip, but I'm just trying to make sure I show you what I did in case you are a beginner. So after stitching one side, I'm going to also stitch the other side as well. So once I got to that band part, I'm going to fold in the excess and stitch. So after stitching, next is to make a little top stitch to hold down the zipper by the side with your zipper foot, and I'll do the same. So we have gradually come to the end of this tutorial, and I believe this class was helpful to you. So like I said, I mistakenly put this band at the back, okay, at the front. It's supposed to be at the back. Sorry about that. So please, I'm going to lose it out and put it at the right place, but the principle remains the same. Okay, so you just go ahead and put it at the right place. So that is how we come to the end of this tutorial. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe to this channel. See you in the next one. Bye.